I'm going to be going through an example of a continuation trade. Now the time frames that we'll be using will be the 15 and 5 minute trade time frames. So to begin, I'm going to be going to start off and showing you guys everything on the 5 minute. But I want to once again iterate that the purpose of using two time frames is to see how you can get into the trade at a better entry and a better risk to reward. But overall, the higher time frame is more important because
It's 18:15.
you want to be able to identify and find the trend. So on the 15-minute time frame, you can see that price is above the 200 EMA, indicating that we are in an uptrend. So overall, we should be looking for buys. Now, I will go ahead and say before I start explaining that this trade is actually uh, a reversal in the making. So this buy scenario setup would have failed because one, it didn't even hit target one, and it barely even reached 20 pips from your continuation entry. And this sell right here is a setup for a reversal. So there's actually a trend shift trade setup inside of this, and I will be going through that on another video. But to begin, let's go down to the 5 minute time frame, and we'll go by step. First thing you want to do is identify your first impulsive leg. So this number one indicates that when price crossed the 200 EMA and you have this impulse, the yellow circles indicate your bottom and top of the trend and where you will place your fibs. So we have our one, and our two is the crossing of the 50 EMA. Once price crosses the 50 EMA, you indicate your two. And this example is very different because one, it was a failure example, so it didn't even go 20 pips from your continuation entry, and neither did it hit the first target. But it's also different than the others because normally your fib entry, where you'll have your 3A, right after you have your 2, your 3 indicates where your fib rejections are. So this is a fib rejection right here as it hit the 382%, but price exceeded past that and went down to the 50% region and rejected as well. And then this is where you have your 4. Once price crosses back above the 50 EMA indication, the continuation of the trend. Now, as you can see, price failed and continued to move lower. So because price failed, this now becomes 4A, and we are now looking for 3B and 4B because we now need a second setup. Now, normally when this happens, price will usually line up within the same rejection zone and reject from it. So you would usually set a buy limit here because price previously had some respect at the 50%. But as you can see, price continued to move lower. So if price ever continues to move lower than where your previous first fib rejection was, so in this case where this 3A was, price exceeded that and moved lower, then you will have to pretty much wait until price goes back above and goes back above your first respected line. So if I'm paying attention to this 50% and I put a buy limit here, then pretty much it has to be respected, and it will be respected until price closes beneath here. If price never exceeds this low, which is where your stop loss is, then the trend is still continuing. But as you can see, price goes all the way down to the 786, and then it starts to finally make its move back up. Now this is extremely important when you are using two different time frames, because on the 5 minute you can see price exceeded the 200 EMA and even went a little bit further. But if you go down to the 15-minute time frame over here, you can see that price got engulfed. This bearish red candle was engulfed by a blue bullish candle as soon as it tried to close. So the purpose of the 5 minute time frame is to see a deeper explanation of what happened as the turnaround happened. So in this case, if your 50% got exceeded, then what is my next fib entry, right? How can I still get a better risk to reward for the fib entry? And in this case, it would be the 618. Reason being, you can't use the 78% or the 71 because you don't know if it's being respected. You do know the 618 is respected because if you come over here on the 5 minute time frame, you can see that you have these bullish candles as soon as it hit this level. Now price broke it, but as soon as price came back up, you can set a buy stop or you can mark execute specifically at this 618 level because this is the respected level. Now this example is different than a lot of other examples, but it's still an example and explanations are always good for learning purposes. So this would be your fib entry at the 618%, and your continuation entry would be at the candles that closed above the 50%. Now this candle closed above the 50 EMA, but the full body of the candle is still inside of the 50 EMA. I like candles that are fully above and that are not touching, so I mark this candle. You could use this one, but there's always an indication sometimes that that's not permanent. Price could pull back. So I like to use these candles. And as you can see as well, I mark these horizontal dash lines. I mark the first continuation candle as well because they act as a zone. As you can see, when price came up to the previous continuation candle, it bounced around and then made its continuation. And then it even retested back to this same percentage line and then made its continuation. So it's important to know where you are in price and what previous entries could do for you and set you up. So, like I said, it is important to use 2 time frames because as well, your 15-minute continuation candle would be right here at 73,172, but the continuation candle on the 5-minute is 73,142. So it's about, what is that, 50, 60, 70, 30 points, which is like 0.03 pips. So it's not that much of a difference, but this is a lower time frame. So the higher the time frame you go, the bigger difference that it makes. Once again, the purpose of using the 2 time frames is to identify how you are moving within the structure. But yes, this is pretty much how the example of a continuation trade would go. And I'm going to now make a video explaining how this is actually a sell setup happening. Reason being because this trade, even though price went up around, as I bring this screen bigger, from the continuation price, the high that price actually moved up, if you would have entered from the continuation entry, price only moved 13 pips. And from the fib entry, price moved 27 pips. Now, you could take profit or partials every 20 pips, but I like to use a -1.3 zone as your actual target. So if my fib is from this low to this high, the -3 extension would be my first target. And price never reached that. And since price never reached that, you can actually see that price was struggling to actually close above this high, setting up for reversal. So in this next and another video, I will be explaining how you would catch the reversal. Thank you and stay blessed.